You gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. Loyalty didn't earn you a place, it built a cage around you. The worst betrayal isn't her leaving, it's how easily you let her rewrite your worth. You stayed when she needed something you couldn't give, and that stayed with you deeper than any wound. You told yourself opening up was the key, that vulnerability would crack open the door to something real. But every time you peeled back the layers, you met silence. Cold, sharp silence that seared through your chest like ice. You weren't her first choice. You were the fallback, the convenience, the man who showed up when it suited her story. And yet, here you are, still loyal, still burning with a fire that they said you should hide. That fire isn't a curse. It's your steel, forged in the heat of rejection and sharpened by every unanswered question. You learned that dedication isn't a contract or a promise. It's a weapon you wield alone, far from the noise of needing to be understood. The echo of that silence will haunt you if you let it, but instead, use it as a distance to see clearer. Loyalty is yours to define, not hers to take away. You don't owe anyone your flame. They don't get to decide how fiercely you burn. It's time to stop asking why you were left behind and start knowing that your strength doesn't require permission. You walked through hell and never raised your voice. Let that silence speak louder than any betrayal ever could. Why does loyalty make us invisible? You've been told, drilled really, that opening your heart is the bridge to connection, showing your scars, sharing your doubts, laying everything bare so people can finally see you. Vulnerability is sold like armor for the soul, a cure to loneliness, a language of truth. But what happens when that armor turns to dust on your skin, when the very people you trusted with your story treat it like white noise? You become exposed, not in strength, but in weakness. You hold the cards face up, only to find your hand folded without a word. The world demands you be emotionally available, but respect? That's a currency we weren't taught how to earn or hold. You give your loyalty, your time, your silent service without fanfare, and yet it fades, unseen, unvalued, like a ghost walking beside them. Why does being the first to show your real face make you the last to be acknowledged? It's a paradox, and a kind of pain engineered for us. In the echo chamber of endless emotional exhibition, the old mask of the strong, silent man calls to you, promising a refuge. Stoicism, silence, distance, these aren't failures to feel. They are the shields we desperately need, the boundaries that keep our marrow intact. But it's a dangerous game walking that line. You question if the sacrifice of silence is surrendering your truth, or if too much openness is the greatest blindness of all, both to others and to yourself. Somewhere between the shout and the mute lies clarity, but it's not handed to you. It's earned by learning when to speak, when to steal your words, and when to let the silence say what your heart cannot risk. They say vulnerability is the new strength, but what if it's just been weaponized to strip you of your power? You weren't made for invisibility. You were forged in storms where loyalty meant standing firm, not fading into the background. Reclaiming respect isn't about louder confessions, it's about quieter conviction. Remember this, you don't owe the world your chaos. The men who walked through fire don't burn themselves down just to light up others. It's in this reclaiming of loyalty, this unspoken allegiance to yourself, where the real answers live. The answers you won't find in whispered promises or empty applause. Loyalty isn't a surrender, it's a fortress. This is the only kind of availability worth your strength. Pain isn't a curse laid upon you by some cruel fate. It's the cold fire that forges the steel inside you. Like a storm-tested oak, your roots dig deeper into the earth beneath all that wind and rain. You don't break, you bend. And in bending, you grow stronger, taller, wider, more unshakable. Marcus Aurelius said the obstacle in your path doesn't just block you, it becomes the way forward. The very thing that grinds you down is the hammer that shapes your edge. You're not here to run from pain or to drown it out with noise. You're here to absorb it, to let it carve new channels in your mind and body until you become something tougher than you imagined. I know a man who was like a wolf running wild, always chasing after respect, approval, validation, always loud in his pursuit, desperate for someone to finally say, "You're enough." One day, he just stopped. Nothing dramatic, no announcement, no sudden epiphany. He folded into the silence, accepted that the world wouldn't hand him the meaning he was looking for. That still moment became his revolution. He learned that when you stop trying to prove your worth, you start living it, quiet and solid. Other men noticed, not because he shouted louder, but because he stood firmer, unshaken by storms that would have flattened lesser men. That's the power of Stoicism. It turns your pain from a shackle into a smith hammer. It beats out all the rust and weakness until your will blazes like white-hot iron. Your silence, the kind that hums beneath a warrior's calm, is louder than any roar. It's the hush of an ocean before the tide pulls back to reveal jagged rocks beneath. Your stillness isn't empty. It's a tempest waiting to be unleashed on your own terms. This is the place where freedom lives. The place where you stop explaining yourself, stop pleading for acknowledgement, and simply decide, I am. When your thoughts sharpen, when your mind slices through distractions like a blade through leather, you move differently in this world. You don't chase respect. You claim it with the quiet confidence of a man who's walked through hell but never raised his voice. Pain becomes your mentor, guiding every step, every breath. It teaches you endurance, patience, and a kind of strength that doesn't need applause. You carry your scars like badges, not because you want pity, but so you remember the battles you survived. This is the stoic warrior inside you, the man who doesn't demand the world's mercy, but moves through it with purpose, patience, and power. Steel sharpens steel, and you are sharpening yourself every moment you embrace the storm rather than run from it. You carry the weight of a world that's never asked if you were ready to bear it, yet you still seek approval like a man begging for scraps. Detach from that need. Let it fall off you like dead steel rusting away. The eyes that watch, the mouths that judge, the hands that point, they don't walk your path or carry your pack. Their voices are smoke, never the fire in your chest. When you step back from their demands, you discover what's left. Raw clarity. The silence between their expectations is where your truth breathes. You don't owe the world an explanation, a nod, or a sign of compliance. Freedom lives in that space where you walk without the invisible audience dictating the beat of your march. Mastering your emotions isn't about burying them deep underground like shameful secrets. It's about learning to hold them, like a wolf on the hunt, muscles tense but controlled, senses sharp, heart steady. You feel anger, but you don't let it charge the field alone. You harness it, sharpen it, and direct it where it strikes with precision. Fear might claw at your gut, but you name it, know it, and let it steady your stance instead of breaking it. Emotional control is your armor, forged not in suppression, but in understanding. When your feelings rise, you don't fight them blindly. You roll with the tide, keeping your core unmoved, unshaken. In that mastery lies a strange peace, the cool calm before the storm breaks. Put your mission above all else. Let it be the tattoo engraved on your bones. A warrior without a mission is a ship lost in a tempest, tossed by every capricious wave of distraction and doubt. Your mission is the steel spine at the center of your being, the unforgiving echo that drowns the noise and pulls you forward. Every decision you make, every step you take, let it cleave to that mission with unwavering devotion. When the world offers shortcuts or distractions, you grind your teeth and hold your ground. The mission is your compass, your anchor, the quiet command you follow even when the road is covered with ash and silence. Fortitude is the unshakable foundation beneath your feet when fear tries to steal your breath. It's the grunt deep in your throat when your body begs for surrender, when the night is cold and every muscle screams to quit. Fortitude isn't reckless. It's deliberate courage wrapped around the reality of pain and uncertainty. It's the difference between a reckless charge and a steady advance under fire. This strength roots you in storms that crush lesser men to dust. The battle is never just outside. It's inside your bones, your will, your refusal to fall. Seek truth like a lone wolf hunts through dark forests, relentless, quiet, and precise. Truth isn't a soft thing you afford when it's convenient. It's the blade you carry daily, cutting through deception and pretense. Your word, your actions, they are the same wind, consistent and hard as stone. This principle burns away the weak currents of lies whispered by doubt or vanity. Live so that your truth echoes in your silence, in the steady rhythm of your work, your sacrifices, your standing tall when no one watches. Integrity isn't an option. It's the horizon you fix your gaze on, the light that guides through every night in this relentless world. You stand now on ground you didn't choose but mastered all the same. The scars beneath your skin are not weaknesses but the map of your war. You're no longer twisting in the storm of what others threw at you, no longer shackled by the echoes of rejection or the weight of lost identity. This is a man remade, tempered in fire and silence, carrying a quiet confidence that doesn't beg for attention. You move through the world like the wolf who knows his path without announcing it, who doesn't flinch at the howl of outside voices because those wolves belong to the pack you left behind. You are the oak rooted deeper than the shallow winds of opinion, unyielding to the seasons of doubt or pain. What defines you now is not the ghosts that once haunted your nights, but the relentless clarity you've wrestled from yourself. The kind of clarity that strips away noise and leaves only purpose. Your strength isn't loud. It doesn't need applause or validation. It's the stillness in the room when the fight is over, the firm set of your jaw when no one else sees, the weight behind your stride that says you have nothing left to prove. Every step forward is a declaration, not just to the world, but to yourself. You are not a man broken by failure, but a warrior forged by it. In this silence, you own your truth. It speaks without shouting because what's spoken in quiet carries farther than any shout across the canyon. You lead from inside, from a place untouched by noise or desperation. This is the strength that survives when everything else falls away. The strength only a man who has walked through hell and never raised his voice can claim. So hold this close. You are the wolf who leads in silence, the oak standing firm against the storm. In your silence lies your strength. And remember this, because it's the line that echoes in the hearts of the men who still search for something real. A silent leader commands more than shouts could ever tell.